In the last episode of our tale, humanity teetered on the brink of collapse, ravaged by environmental disaster and societal upheaval. Yet amidst the ruin, a beacon of hope emerged in the form of Ambrose Wynter, a visionary entrepreneur who dared to dream of a brighter future. As the last remnants of sunlight faded beyond the ravaged horizon, casting the makeshift settlement of New Eden in a deep, ominous twilight, Ambrose Wynter stood atop a rugged outcropping, gazing out upon the devastated landscape. The air reeked of smoke and desperation, a constant reminder of the world's precarious state. Ambrose's thoughts were a jumble of strategy and anxiety as he surveyed the ramshackle collection of shelters and improvised defenses that now constituted humanity's stronghold. The faint hum of generators and the murmur of anxious voices filled the air, punctuated by the occasional clang of hammer on metal as the settlers worked tirelessly to fortify their fragile community. A gentle breeze carried the soft murmur of a young girl's voice, whispering a soft melody that seemed to soothe the frayed nerves of the gathered crowd. Ilara, a gifted young vocalist with an otherworldly talent, was known to lift the spirits of those around her. Her presence here was a testament to the fragile beauty that still existed in this broken world. As the night deepened, a soft chime echoed through the settlement's comm system, followed by the holographic projection of a familiar face. Lyra, leader of the enigmatic Chirinae, an alien species with whom Ambrose had forged a crucial alliance. Her slender, elongated form materialized before him, her eyes gleaming with a knowing intelligence. Ambrose, we have received your transmission regarding the suspected plot against your faction, Lyra's ethereal voice whispered. We concur that the threat is real. Our analysts suggest a traitor within your ranks has been feeding information to the Galactic Council. Ambrose's jaw clenched, his mind racing with the implications. He needed to identify the mole and fast or risk losing everything he'd worked for. I appreciate your warning, Lyra. Investigate and take necessary action. Be cautious, Ambrose. The traitor may be closer than you think. As the hologram flickered out, Ambrose's thoughts turned to the list of individuals with access to sensitive information. He knew that if he didn't act swiftly, the very foundations of his fledgling empire might crumble. The darkness seemed to press in around him, heavy with foreboding, as he began to weave through the crowded settlement, his eyes scanning the faces of those he had come to consider allies. Who among them was secretly working against him? A faint, unsettling shiver danced along his spine as he realized that, in this world of shattered trust, even the shadows seemed to be watching. Ambrose stepped into the command center, a converted shipping container lined with holographic displays and tactical consoles. The soft glow of the screens illuminated the tense faces of his senior officers. The room fell silent as Ambrose entered, his presence demanding attention. Gentlemen, we have a problem. Lyra's just informed me of a suspected traitor within our ranks. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, a grizzled veteran named Marcus, spoke up. Sir, if I may ask, what's the play here? Ambrose's gaze swept the room, his expression unyielding. We investigate, we identify, and we eliminate the threat. I want a thorough sweep of our personnel, background checks, the works. I want to know who's been talking to whom, and when. As the officers dispersed to carry out their orders, Ambrose couldn't shake the feeling that he was already running out of time. The traitor, if they existed, was likely to strike soon, and the consequences could be catastrophic. In the silence that followed, a soft, anxious voice intruded, a young technician's hesitant query. Sir, what about Ilara? She's been asking questions. Ambrose's expression turned cold. Ilara? I'll speak with her. See that she's escorted to my quarters. The tech nodded and quickly exited, leaving Ambrose to his thoughts. Ilara's inquiries might be innocent, or they might be a clever ruse. In this treacherous landscape, nothing was certain, except that Ambrose Wynter would stop at nothing to protect the future he was determined to build. With a deep breath, Ambrose steeled himself for the trials ahead. his eyes narrowing as he contemplated the uncertain path that lay before him. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and he was the only one standing between the darkness and the light. As he turned to leave, the darkness outside seemed to press in, a palpable presence that watched and waited. The night was full of secrets, and Ambrose Wynter was ready to uncover them. The heavy metal door slid shut behind him, enveloping Ambrose in the dimly lit silence of his quarters. He paused, his eyes adjusting to the soft luminescence of the console screens that lined the walls. The air was stale, recirculated by the life support systems, and carried the faint tang of ozone. Alara stood before him, her slender frame tense, her dark eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. Her voice, usually a gentle melody, was strained. "Sir, I apologize for asking questions. I didn't mean to cause any trouble." Ambrose's expression softened, his gaze lingering on the girl's worried face. "No trouble, Alara. I just need to know what's driving your curiosity." Alara took a hesitant step forward, her eyes darting between Ambrose and the door, as if fearful of being overheard. "I've been sensing things, sir, whispers in the darkness. It feels like someone's watching us, waiting for something to happen." Ambrose's instincts pricked, his mind racing with the implications. Lyra's warning echoed in his thoughts. "The traitor may be closer than you think." "Go on, Alara." "What kind of whispers?" The girl's voice dropped to a whisper, her words barely audible over the soft hum of the life support systems. "I've heard rumors of an ancient technology hidden deep within the ruins of the old world. Something that could change the course of human history." Ambrose's eyes narrowed, his grip on the console tightening. "An ancient technology? That's quite a story. Do you know who's spreading these rumors?" Alara's gaze faltered, her eyes dropping to the floor. "I'm not sure, sir. It's just, the whispers are everywhere." Ambrose's gaze lingered on the girl, his thoughts racing with the possibilities. Alara might be telling the truth, or she might be playing a clever game. He needed to know which. "I'll look into it, Alara. Thank you for coming forward." As the girl nodded and turned to leave, Ambrose's gaze lingered on her, his mind working overtime to untangle the threads of deceit and loyalty that threatened to destroy everything he'd built. The door slid open, and Alara vanished into the darkness, leaving Ambrose to his thoughts. He couldn't shake the feeling that the night was full of secrets, and he was running out of time to uncover them. With a deep breath, Ambrose turned to the console, his fingers flying across the holographic keyboard as he called up the personnel files, searching for any connection between Alara and the suspected traitor. The screens flickered to life, casting an eerie glow over the room, as Ambrose delved deeper into the shadows, determined to unearth the truth. In the silence, a faint hum began to build, a soft vibration that resonated through the metal walls of the command center. Ambrose's eyes narrowed, his instincts screaming that something was off. As he turned to investigate, the hum grew louder, the vibration intensifying until the very air seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly energy. Suddenly, the lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Ambrose's heart raced, his senses on high alert, as he realized that the night had just taken a deadly turn. The darkness was absolute, the silence oppressive. Ambrose's trained reflexes kicked in, and he dropped to the floor, his hand instinctively reaching for the combat knife sheathed at his ankle. His breath came in slow, measured gasps as he strained to pinpoint the source of the anomaly. The hum had stopped, replaced by an unsettling stillness that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent. Ambrose's mind raced, cataloging every detail, every possibility. This was no ordinary malfunction. He slowly rose to his feet, his eyes scanning the darkness, as if willing the shadows to reveal their secrets. The air was heavy with anticipation, the silence a living, breathing entity that seemed to surround him. Ambrose's fingers drummed a staccato rhythm on the console, his instincts screaming that time was running out. He needed to act, and fast. With a deep breath, he activated the emergency backup system, and a faint blue-green glow flickered to life, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The console screens flickered, rebooting with agonizing slowness. As the lights stabilized, Ambrose's gaze swept the room, searching for any signs of intruders or sabotage. The silence was still oppressive, but he sensed a fragile equilibrium had been restored. With deliberate slowness, Ambrose made his way to the door, his hand on the knife hilt, ready to strike at a moment's notice. He paused, his ear pressed against the metal, listening for any signs of movement outside. The corridors were quiet, the only sound the soft hum of life support systems and the distant thrum of the engines. Ambrose's instincts told him to be cautious. This sudden blackout was no accident. He palmed the door open, his eyes scanning the dimly lit corridor. The passageways were empty, the shadows cast by the flickering emergency lights eerily still. Ambrose's gaze narrowed, his mind racing with possibilities. Who was behind this? And what did they want? He took a deep breath, his eyes locked on the distant command center. It was time to gather his people, to regroup and respond to this blatant attack. With a swift stride, Ambrose set off down the corridor, his senses on high alert, as he navigated the treacherous landscape of his own stronghold. As he walked, the shadows seemed to writhe and twist around him, as if alive, watching him, waiting for their next move. Ambrose's instincts screamed that the night was far from over, and the real challenge was only just beginning. The command center's doors slid open with a soft hiss, and Ambrose strode in, his eyes sweeping the room. The dim red lighting cast an ominous glow on the faces of his top advisors, gathered around the central console. "What's the situation?" Ambrose demanded, his voice low and even. Commander Rachel Morse, her silver hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, turned to face him. "Sir, we're still trying to determine the cause of the blackout. Life support systems are online, but our main power grid is still down." Ambrose's gaze locked onto her. "Casualties?" "None reported, sir, but we have multiple system failures across the stronghold. It's like nothing I've seen before." Ambrose's eyes narrowed. This was no ordinary malfunction. He could feel it in his bones. "Get me Admiral Zara on the comms," he ordered. "I need to know what's happening outside these walls." As the comms officer worked to establish the connection, Ambrose turned to his chief engineer, Dr. Sophia Patel. "Sophia, what's your assessment?" The soft-spoken scientist's dark eyes were troubled. "Ambrose, I've never seen a systems failure like this. It's as if our own security protocols turned against us." Ambrose's hand tightened around the knife hilt. "Sabotage, then, and from within." The comms officer interrupted. "Admiral Zara on the line, sir." Ambrose turned to the view screen as the Admiral's rugged features appeared. "Ambrose, we've got multiple unidentified vessels approaching the stronghold. I recommend we—" A loud impact rocked the room, throwing everyone off balance. Alarms blared and the lights flickered ominously. "What's happening?" Ambrose shouted above the din. Rachel's face was ashen. "Sir, we're under attack. The vessels are breaching our perimeter defenses." Ambrose's instincts screamed that this was no random assault. Someone had orchestrated this, exploiting the blackout to catch humanity off guard. "Battle stations," he barked. "Raise our shields and prepare to repel boarders. I want those vessels identified and taken down." The room erupted into chaos as his team scrambled to respond to the crisis. Ambrose's eyes locked onto the view screen, his mind racing to unravel the tangled threads of this complex attack. Who was behind this? And what was their ultimate goal? As the stronghold shuddered under the relentless assault, Ambrose knew one thing for certain: he would not back down. He would fight to protect humanity's stronghold, no matter the cost. The din of alarms and frantic voices swirled around Ambrose as he sprinted towards the tactical console. Rachel's team worked feverishly to bring up the shields, while Sophia frantically analyzed the system failures. "Incoming transmission from the lead vessel, sir," the comms officer shouted. Ambrose's eyes locked onto the view screen as a hooded figure materialized, their features obscured by shadows. "Ambrose Wynter, you have something that belongs to us," the figure hissed, their voice like a rusty gate. Surrender now, and we might spare your pitiful human existence. Ambrose's grip on the knife hilt tightened. Who was this figure and what did they want? He knew better than to negotiate with an unknown enemy. I don't respond to threats, Ambrose spat, his voice cold and even. You're in no position to make demands. Leave now and I might spare your lives. The hooded figure chuckled, a dry, mirthless sound. You don't have the luxury of arrogance, Wynter. We have come for the artifact. You will relinquish it, or we will reduce your precious stronghold to rubble. Ambrose's mind raced. What artifact could they be referring to? The only valuable item in the stronghold was the ancient alien technology they had salvaged from the ruins of the Galactic Council's headquarters, but that was safely secured in the vault. The assault intensified and the stronghold shuddered beneath Ambrose's feet. His team worked in perfect harmony, responding to the crisis with precision and skill. Rachel, can you give me a sitrep? Ambrose demanded, his eyes darting between the viewscreen and the tactical console. We're holding, sir, but those vessels are heavily armed. We need to find a way to take them down quickly, Rachel replied, her eyes locked onto the data streaming across the console. Sophia approached Ambrose, her dark eyes flashing with intensity. Ambrose, I think I've found the source of the system failures. It's not just a malfunction, it's a carefully crafted virus designed to cripple our defenses. An insider's work, Ambrose asked, his instincts screaming betrayal. Sophia nodded, it has to be. The code is too sophisticated, too intimate. Whoever did this has access to our systems, Ambrose. The stronghold lurched again, throwing everyone off balance. Ambrose's thoughts raced with the implications. Who among his ranks had turned against him? As the battle raged on, Ambrose knew he had to act fast. He couldn't let the stronghold fall, not now, when humanity was on the cusp of a new era. Rachel, get me a team ready to take out those vessels. Sophia, I need you to trace the source of that virus and find me the traitor. We need to move now. The room erupted into a flurry of activity as Ambrose's team responded to his orders. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and Ambrose knew he would stop at nothing to protect it. With a fierce determination burning in his chest, Ambrose strode towards the exit, ready to face whatever lay ahead. But as he turned to leave, a faint whisper echoed in his mind, a warning from an unknown source. Be careful, Ambrose Wynter. The enemy is closer than you think. Ambrose's eyes narrowed as he spun back towards Sophia, his mind racing with the implications. What was that? He asked, his voice low and urgent. Sophia's brow creased in confusion. What was what, Ambrose? The whisper, Ambrose replied, his eyes locked onto Sophia's. In my mind, the warning. Sophia shook her head. I didn't hear anything, Ambrose. Are you okay? Ambrose's grip on the knife hilt tightened. He knew what he heard. The question was who was behind the warning. Ambrose, we need to move, Rachel called out, her voice snapping him back to reality. With a curt nod, Ambrose followed Rachel out of the tactical room, his mind racing with the unknown. The stronghold's corridors seemed to blur together as they rushed towards the hangar, the sound of blaster fire and shouting growing louder with every step. As they burst into the hangar, Ambrose's heart sank. The vessels were taking a pounding, their shields struggling to hold against the relentless assault. Get me a ship prepped now, Ambrose ordered, his eyes scanning the chaos. Rachel nodded, already moving towards the nearest vessel. I've got this, Ambrose. Sophia fell into step beside him, her eyes darting between the vessels and the enemy ships. I'll get to work on tracing that virus, Ambrose. I'll find the traitor. Ambrose's gaze locked onto Sophia's. Be careful, Sophia. We don't know what we're up against. Sophia's smile was grim. I can take care of myself, Ambrose. With a nod, Ambrose turned towards the vessel, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew what he had to do. He had to take out those enemy ships, no matter the cost. As he boarded the vessel, the din of battle grew louder, the smell of smoke and sweat filling his nostrils. Ambrose's hand instinctively went to the knife hilt, his mind racing with strategy. This was it. This was the moment that would decide humanity's fate. With a deep breath, Ambrose settled into the pilot's seat, his eyes locked onto the viewscreen. The enemy vessels loomed large, their cannons blazing. Ambrose's finger closed around the trigger, his heart racing with anticipation. This was war. The vessel lurched forward, Ambrose's piloting skills honed to perfection as he darted between the enemy ships, his blasters blazing. The battle was intense, the stronghold's vessels holding their own against the enemy's superior numbers. Ambrose's mind raced with calculations, his reflexes lightning fast as he evaded and returned fire. But despite his skills, Ambrose knew they couldn't hold out for much longer. The enemy ships were too powerful, their cannons too accurate. Ambrose needed a plan, and he needed it fast. Just as he was about to come up with a strategy, a loud explosion rocked the vessel, throwing Ambrose off balance. "Rachel, report," Ambrose shouted, his heart racing. "We've got a critical system failure, Ambrose," Rachel's voice came back, laced with panic. "We're going to have to make an emergency landing." Ambrose's eyes locked onto the viewscreen, his mind racing. They couldn't land, not now. The enemy would be on them in an instant. But as he looked out into space, Ambrose saw it, a small, unremarkable planet hovering on the edge of the battlefield. It was their only chance. "Hold on, Rachel," Ambrose shouted, his voice echoing through the comms system. "We're going in." The vessel lurched again, Ambrose's heart racing as he set a course for the unknown planet. This was it. This was their only hope. As the vessel hurtled towards the planet's surface, Ambrose's mind raced with the unknown. What secrets lay hidden on this forgotten world? And would they be enough to save humanity from extinction? The vessel's hull groaned in protest as Ambrose pushed it to its limits, navigating the treacherous landscape of the unknown planet. Rachel's cries of alarm echoed through the comms system as the ship shook and rattled, threatening to disintegrate at any moment. "Hold on, Rachel," Ambrose yelled back, his knuckles white as he gripped the pilot's stick. The planet's surface rushed up to meet them, and Ambrose's heart sank as the vessel's engine sputtered and died. The ship crashed onto the rocky ground, throwing Ambrose forward against the restraints. For a moment, there was silence. The only sound was the creaking of the vessel's damaged hull and the heavy breathing of the crew. Ambrose's eyes flicked open, his gaze locking onto the viewscreen as he assessed their situation. They'd made it out of the battle, but at what cost? The planet's landscape stretched out before them, barren and unforgiving. "Rachel, Sophia, report," Ambrose called out, his voice firm and commanding. Rachel's voice was laced with pain as she responded, I am okay, Ambrose, but we've got significant damage to the hull and engines. We're not going anywhere anytime soon." Sophia's voice was calm and detached, a stark contrast to the chaos around them. "I am running diagnostics, Ambrose, but I think I can patch up the life support systems. We should be able to survive for a little while longer." Ambrose's mind raced with the implications. They were stranded, with limited resources and no way to call for backup. The enemy could return at any moment and they'd be sitting ducks. "Rachel, Sophia, we need to move," Ambrose said, his voice low and urgent. "We can't stay here. We need to find shelter and fast." With a groan, Ambrose pushed himself out of the pilot's seat, his gaze scanning the damaged vessel. They had to act fast before the enemy caught up with them. As he made his way out of the cockpit, Ambrose's eyes locked onto the knife hilt, still clutched in his hand. The whisper in his mind seemed to echo louder now, the warning more ominous than ever. What secrets lay hidden on this forgotten world? And who was behind the warning, waiting for them in the shadows? Ambrose's boots scuffed against the dusty ground as he stepped out of the crashed vessel, his gaze sweeping across the barren landscape. The silence was oppressive, punctuated only by the creaking of the ship's hull and the heavy breathing of his crew. Rachel emerged behind him, her movements slow and labored. "Ambrose, I've got a reading on the planet's atmosphere," she said, her voice tight with pain. "It's toxic. We need to find shelter and fast." Sophia followed, her eyes fixed on the surrounding terrain. "I am picking up some strange energy signatures, Ambrose. They're a faint, but they might be indicative of some sort of structure. Ambrose's heart quickened as he scanned the horizon. They needed shelter, and they needed it now. "Let's move," he said, his voice firm. "We'll follow the energy signatures and see where they lead us." The trek across the rocky terrain was arduous, the toxic air seeping into their lungs with every step. Ambrose's eyes watered, his vision blurring as he pushed on, his crew struggling to keep pace behind him. As the sun began to set, casting the landscape in a bloody orange glow, Ambrose spotted it, a strange monolithic structure rising from the ground like a sentinel. "What is that?" Rachel breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "I don't know," Ambrose replied, his hand on the hilt of his knife, "but I think it's our only hope for survival." As they approached the structure, Ambrose sensed a strange energy emanating from it, like a hum in the back of his mind. It was familiar, yet alien, and it sent a shiver down his spine. The entrance was a simple, unadorned archway leading into darkness. Ambrose drew a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest, and stepped forward. The air inside was stale but breathable, and the silence was oppressive, punctuated only by the sound of their own breathing. Ambrose's eyes adjusted slowly to the dim light, revealing a labyrinthine corridor stretching out before them. Sophia's voice was a whisper in his ear. "Ambrose, I am reading more energy signatures in here. This place is some sort of ancient temple or something." Ambrose's hand tightened around the knife hilt as he moved forward, his senses on high alert. What secrets lay hidden within these ancient walls? And what lay waiting in the shadows, watching them? As they delved deeper into the temple, the energy signatures grew stronger, until Ambrose could feel it pulsing through his very veins. He was being drawn to something, but he didn't know what. Suddenly, the corridor opened up into a vast, dimly lit chamber, and Ambrose's heart stopped. In the center of the room, suspended above a glowing crystal, was an ancient artifact unlike anything he had ever seen. It was a relic from a civilization long forgotten, a symbol of power and knowledge that seemed to call to him across the ages. Ambrose's breath caught in his throat as he reached out, his hand closing around the artifact with a sense of destiny. In that moment, he knew that he had uncovered a secret that would change the course of human history forever. As his fingers made contact with the artifact, a surge of energy coursed through his body, like a spark igniting a firestorm within him. The chamber around him began to spin, the walls blurring into a kaleidoscope of colors as the artifact pulsed with an otherworldly power. Rachel's voice was a distant echo, her words indistinguishable as Ambrose's senses were overwhelmed by the artifact's presence. Sophia's eyes were fixed on him, her gaze mesmerized by the transformation taking place before her. The chamber's dimensions seemed to expand, the walls stretching outward to encompass galaxies and civilizations, beyond Ambrose's wildest imagination. He felt the weight of eons upon him, the accumulated knowledge of ancient civilizations channeling through the artifact and into his mind. Visions burst forth in rapid succession, starborn cities on distant planets, alien wars that scarred the fabric of spacetime, and cryptic prophecies whispered by forgotten gods. The artifact was a key, unlocking the secrets of the cosmos and revealing humanity's place within the grand tapestry of existence. As the visions receded, Ambrose stumbled backward, the artifact still clutched in his hand. The chamber's colors muted, the air returning to its stale flavor. Rachel and Sophia watched him, their faces etched with concern, as Ambrose struggled to process the revelations flooding his mind. "What did you see?" Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ambrose's gaze drifted toward the artifact, his thoughts racing with the implications of its power. "I saw the universe," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. "I saw the secrets of creation and the destiny that awaits humanity." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Ambrose's grip on the artifact tightened, his determination forging a new path forward. "I mean that we've been given a gift, a chance to reclaim our place among the stars. We'll use this artifact to forge a new future, one where humanity stands alongside the greatest civilizations in the galaxy. As he spoke, the chamber's walls seemed to reverberate with the weight of his words, the very fabric of reality shifting to accommodate the course of human history. Ambrose's vision was clear, his path illuminated by the secrets hidden within the ancient relic. But as he turned to exit the chamber, a faint signal echoed through the temple's corridors, a warning from an unknown sender that Ambrose's newfound power had not gone unnoticed. The message was cryptic, yet chilling. "The keepers of the gate are coming for you, Ambrose Wynter." The words sent a shiver down his spine, as the darkness beyond the temple's walls began to stir, sensing the awakening of a new threat to the balance of power in the galaxy. Ambrose's gaze locked onto Rachel and Sophia, his expression set with a resolute determination. "We need to leave now. The keepers of the gate are coming, and we can't let them catch us off guard." Rachel's eyes darted toward the temple's exit, her hand instinctively reaching for the comms device on her wrist. "Ill alert the squad, get them to fall back to the rendezvous point." Sophia's gaze never wavered from Ambrose's face, her eyes burning with an unspoken intensity. "What do you know about the keepers, Ambrose?" Ambrose's grip on the artifact tightened, the weight of his newfound responsibility settling upon him. "I don't know much, but I know they're the guardians of the ancient technology that created this artifact. If they're coming for me, it's because they see me as a threat to their power." As they hastened to exit the chamber, the temple's corridors seemed to grow longer, the air thickening with an ominous energy. Ambrose's senses were on high alert, his mind racing with strategies to counter the impending threat. The temple's main entrance came into view, the imposing stone doors slowly sliding open to reveal the desolate wasteland beyond. The sky was a deep, foreboding crimson, as if the very fabric of reality was bleeding in anticipation of the coming conflict. Rachel's voice whispered in his ear, her words barely audible over the howling wind. "Squads in position, Ambrose. We have a clear route to the extraction point." Ambrose nodded, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the keepers. "Let's move now. We need to put as much distance between us and the temple as possible." As they emerged into the open, the wind died down, an unsettling silence falling over the wasteland. Ambrose's footsteps echoed through the stillness, the artifact's power pulsing like a heartbeat in his hand. Suddenly, the air was filled with a low, thrumming hum, the ground trembling beneath their feet. Ambrose's gaze snapped upward, his eyes locking onto a dark shape materializing on the horizon. A colossal vessel, its hull adorned with ancient runes, was descending from the sky, its presence casting a long, ominous shadow over the wasteland. The keepers of the gate had arrived, and Ambrose knew that the fate of humanity hung in the balance. With the artifact's power coursing through his veins, Ambrose steeled himself for the battle ahead, his determination forged into an unyielding resolve. He would not back down, not now, not ever. The time for humanity's resurgence had come, and Ambrose Wynter would be the one to lead the charge. Ambrose's eyes remained fixed on the approaching vessel, his mind racing with tactical scenarios as the thrumming hum grew louder. Rachel's voice was low and urgent. "Ambrose, we need to move. Now." Sophia's eyes flashed with determination. "We can't let them take us down without a fight." Ambrose's grip on the artifact tightened, a plan forming in his mind. "Rachel, get the squad into position. Sophia, I need you to hack into their systems, see if we can disrupt their defenses." As Rachel sprinted away, Sophia's fingers flew across her wrist-mounted console, her brow furrowed in concentration. The vessel loomed larger, its presence casting a dark shadow over the wasteland. The air was heavy with anticipation, the weight of the artifact's power thrumming through Ambrose's veins like a battle cry. Sophia's eyes snapped up, her voice laced with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "I am in, Ambrose, but their systems are unlike anything I've seen before. It's like they're using ancient technology to." Her words were cut off by a blinding flash of light, the air shattering with a deafening crack. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the vessel unleashed a devastating blast of energy, sending Ambrose stumbling backward. Rachel's voice was a distant shout, her words torn away by the howling wind. Ambrose, fall back. We need to regroup. Sophia's hand grasped Ambrose's arm, her eyes locked onto his. We can't let them push us back. We have to. Her words were lost in the din of battle, the vessel's defenses unleashing a hail of plasma fire that sent them both diving for cover. As Ambrose scrambled to his feet, the wasteland around him erupted into chaos. The squad was pinned down, their return fire ineffective against the vessel's formidable defenses. Ambrose's determination hardened into a fierce resolve. He would not back down, not now, not ever. With the artifact's power coursing through his veins, he charged forward, Sophia by his side. Together, they launched a daring counterattack, their movements fluid and synchronized as they wove through the hail of plasma fire. The artifact pulsed with energy, its power amplifying Ambrose's strength and agility. For a fleeting moment, the tide of battle seemed to shift in their favor. The vessel's defenses faltered, its plasma fire wavering as Ambrose and Sophia pressed their advantage. But it was a fleeting moment, a brief flash of hope in the face of overwhelming odds. The vessel's defenses roared back to life, a blast of energy sending Ambrose flying across the wasteland. As he struggled to his feet, the artifact's power faltering, Ambrose knew that the fate of humanity hung in the balance. He would not give up, not now, not ever. With a fierce cry, he launched himself forward, the battle far from over. The outcome was far from certain, but one thing was clear. Ambrose Wynter would not back down, not in the face of overwhelming odds, not in the face of extinction itself. The fate of humanity would be decided in this moment, and Ambrose would be the one to shape its destiny. The vessel loomed larger, its presence casting a dark shadow over the wasteland as Ambrose charged forward, his heart pounding in his chest. Rachel's voice was a distant echo, her words lost in the din of battle, but Ambrose knew she was directing the squad's return fire, trying to pin down the vessel's defenses. Sophia's eyes locked onto Ambrose, her gaze burning with determination as she hacked into the vessel's systems, searching for a weakness. The artifact pulsed with energy, its power coursing through Ambrose's veins, amplifying his strength and agility as he dodged and weaved through the hail of plasma fire. For a moment, the battle seemed to slow, the plasma fire faltering as Ambrose landed a series of precise strikes against the vessel's hull. But the respite was short-lived, the vessel's defenses roaring back to life with a deafening blast of energy that sent Ambrose stumbling backward. As he regained his footing, the artifact's power began to wane, its energy dwindling as Ambrose's vision began to blur. Sophia's cry was a distant echo, her words lost in the din of battle, but Ambrose knew she was trying to reach him, trying to tell him something. With a surge of adrenaline, Ambrose pushed forward, his movements becoming sluggish and uncoordinated as the artifact's power faltered. The vessel's defenses pressed their advantage, a wave of plasma fire washing over Ambrose like a tidal wave. As the flames engulfed him, Ambrose's vision narrowed to a single point, his heart pounding in his chest. He saw Rachel, her eyes locked onto his, her face etched with concern. He saw Sophia, her gaze burning with determination as she hacked into the vessel's systems. And he saw the artifact, its power coursing through his veins, its energy dwindling as the flames consumed him. In that moment, Ambrose knew that the fate of humanity hung in the balance. With a fierce cry, he launched himself forward, the battle far from over. The outcome was far from certain, but one thing was clear. Ambrose Wynter would not back down, not in the face of overwhelming odds, not in the face of extinction itself. As the flames engulfed him, Ambrose's vision began to fade, his heart pounding in his chest. But even as the darkness closed in, Ambrose knew that he would not give up, not now, not ever. For in the face of overwhelming odds, Ambrose Wynter would find a way to overcome, to adapt, and to emerge victorious. The fate of humanity would be decided in this moment, and Ambrose would be the one to shape its destiny. As the darkness closed in, Ambrose's eyes locked onto the vessel, his mind racing with tactical scenarios, his heart pounding in his chest. The battle was far from over, and Ambrose Wynter would be the one to decide its outcome.